Hello and welcome to our podcast, Healing Our Community with Dr. Ray and Jean. I'm Dr. Ray.
And I'm Jean.
And this is our podcast, episode 7, The Alcatraz Escape, Finding Freedom in the Present Moment. As you can see, we are here at Alcatraz Island, otherwise known as The Rock. And The Rock.
We just did a tour. It was really interesting if you've never done it.
Yeah, one of the things that was very interesting is that they talked about how the prisoners really survived being here, being in a cell and just being isolated. And one of the things they talked about was being in the moment, which is really huge. One of the things that they also talked about was how torturous it was being right across the bay to San Francisco.
They said on New Year's Eve, you could hear the parties and you could hear the women laughing and you can hear the music. And, you know, that must have been an extra level of torture, especially if you were in solitary confinement and hearing your isolation in the world. And it's actually a very beautiful island. It's like being in prison in paradise.
Yeah, so one of the things I talked about was thinking about the past or regrets from the past was torturous. And then they also talked about how, you know, thinking about the future and what kind of future they were going to have was torturous as well. So the ones that really survived, they played games with themselves, like mental games of how to stay focused, how to stay present in the moment, even counting their buttons and counting.
They said there was like honeycombs on the door and they would count them all just out of boredom. And one guy, when he was in solitary confinement, which they kept him in the dark, he would throw a button and then he'd go find it and he'd throw it again. And that was part of how he stayed sane and stayed present. You know, that stillness that we all have in this present moment, no one can take that away from us. And people have equated that with being connected to God, that God exists in silence because you can't break it. People can take a lot of things from us, but we have control over that piece. We can always go inward and we can always get present. And I remember being in basic training and they'd make you stand in lines for a long period of time, like just to eat or something. And you would have to go in your mind, and I called it playing movies, and you'd have to sort of entertain yourself. And no one can take that away from you, even if you're in prison.
Yeah, that's, being in the moment is something really huge, and something that all of us need to practice and learn so that we don't get stuck in regret and depression or stay focused on anxiety. I don't know if you can hear the birds, the seagulls that are just yelling and screaming. There's one right here on the railing here that has joined us for our podcast. So, being in the moment, I think that a lot of people, they just say that, so we just need to stay in the moment, but our brain is actually not designed to stay in the moment. It actually is designed. Yeah, it's designed to scan for threats. And so we typically go backwards into regrets or things that happen in our life that we start to, as I said, have regrets about, and we lament about it. And then our brain skips to the future and worrying about things that are going to happen. And so we can get stuck in this loop, being slung from the past to the future, past to the future. And staying in the moment or staying in that present tense is a really hard thing to do. As Jean said, it's a skill that you actually have to practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that anytime you come out of this present moment, you either experience anxiety or depression based on regrets or worry about the future. And so, being in this moment is a difficult thing. And I remember on our wedding day, I remember someone saying that to me, like, make sure you take it in, make sure you stop and take in the moment because it's going to happen and go by so fast. And, yesterday we hiked in Muir Woods, which Tegan, my niece, nobody likes hiking. And hiking is not usually lovely. It's usually pretty painful. But if you stop and take, because you're looking for where you're stepping, you're not seeing the beauty and the scenery and everything that's going on around you. Hopefully you see some animals. I saw a snake in the near woods. And so you have to stop. And if you think about that right now, wherever you're at, look around the room that you're in or outside, wherever you're at, and look for the color red. And then look for the color orange. And look for yellow. And then green. Look for something blue. Look for something purple. And so far, anywhere I've been in the world, I have always been able to find all the colors just by looking around. And they're there, and that really helps you get present and get in this moment. And that's what I'm talking about, a skill. You have to have these exercises that you do to help yourself get there. Sometimes, if you do meditation, you focus on your breath. Your breath also is a universal thing. There's not Russian breath and Mexican breath. There's only breath, human breath. We just breathe. We all do it. And that just focusing on breathing in and breathing out, you become an observer of yourself, which is the goal of meditation, is just to become an observer of yourself. It's not to help your mind relax. So I've had many hours of meditation with no relaxation. How about you?
Oh, yeah. No, there are times I could, I try to meditate and I can't get there at all. Maybe my mind slips away to the future or the past, a couple seconds and then it's gone. And so it is definitely a skill you have to practice of staying in the moment. Meditation is that practice of that, so that you become an observer of yourself, of what's happening within your body, what's happening within the present moment. That's really the whole point, right? And if we can practice that, then when we are going through crisis, then we can stay in the present moment and not jump to, worry. And, one of the things that we talk about in search and rescue is, being present as to what is happening right now and not worrying about what could happen. If you get, stuck in that worry, then you lose focus of what you're supposed to do in that crisis moment. So it's a skill. It's something that we all have to practice. And, most often people know that you're supposed to do it, but they don't think it as a priority.
Right. So, we think about freedom as going and doing whatever you want. But actually going and doing whatever you want can be pretty painful. There's a lot of decisions to be made, a lot of things to do. It's interesting to see all the birds here, and they all go to the same bush. And they all want to be together. There's lots of places to go, and they go to the same place. And, when you think about going inward and finding freedom, and it doesn't happen in movement, and it doesn't happen in decision making. It's just being. Wow, listen to those guys. I don't know if they can hear them. This really loud here.
How about be in the moment? We got seagulls. We got flies coming all over here.
So thanks for joining us today. It's a beautiful day here on Alcatraz, and I can't even imagine what it was like when it was raining and foggy and the waves were rough, and it was, they said, it's really damp here, and had to be an awful way to be.
Yeah, for all of you out there in Delta County, we obviously, we travel a lot, and we are dedicated to doing this podcast every Wednesday live at 12:15, and to bring, our knowledge and experience to Alcatraz, show the Golden Gate Bridge. There we go. I think it's there. As I said, we're dedicated to, bring our knowledge and experience about mental health, to Delta County. It is a passion of ours to help our community. And this podcast gives us a way of doing just that.
So thanks for joining us today.
Thanks very much. And until next week, we still don't have a good tagline, but maybe it should be like caring community connection.
Have a great week.